our journeys have allowed us to process in a different way.
Yes.
It also makes us reflect back and say, you know, I can understand, like you were just saying, I can understand now, and I can understand some of the terminology that my parents or my grandparents used to say now, and you're like, that makes so much sense. That makes so much sense now. And so I think about that, and I think about how we go through life saying I'm fine, and wearing this mask when we're not fine. And so for me, it's important to have my son, when he comes in the door and he says he's fine, and I know something, like we know our children, we know, like no, that's not fine. So I need you to tell me what fine sounds like, look like, and feel like. I need you to elaborate. I need the quantify. I need you to elaborate on this, because I don't, and it made me reflect as well, because he watched me and growing up continuously say I'm fine when I'm not. So this is something that he learned. This is a behavior that he learned. So it's my duty as his mom to break that cycle and help him unlearn that I'm fine, because I never want him to think that he has to go through carrying something.
I think one of the best things parents can give their children is a Christian therapist.
Amen.
Because sometimes you just don't have the words. And they're not listening to you.
Right.
But my child can call me and say, you know, Mom, this event today was triggering for me, and let me tell you why. Because I need to tell someone. So I know when I was growing up, I didn't have that language, and I know she didn't get that language from me. So I know that had to be the works of the therapist and some insurance copay. So, but I'm so blessed, even though she is high maintenance and I love her. But I'm happy that she has the language. It's just getting her calmed down to find that language to communicate. And just think about how much gun violence we would reduce if people could tell you, you know, this is triggering for me, or this is overstimulating for me. I need to go in the other room. I need to take a time out. You know, I didn't know anything about sensory issues. And she's has a big sensory issue. I just wish she wanted to wear socks on inside out. No tags could touch her. I didn't know what it was. But again, as you learn, you do better. So these are the things that we have to understand.
As a school leader, I used to say to my staff, do not send those children in here to punish them. I send them to my office to come have lunch with me, to come. You are so busy catching them being bad. Fruit goes bad, not children. So what you're going to do is catch them being productive, celebrate that, and then send them to my office with their friends, so that we can celebrate the fact that they're productive, thereby creating more productive beings. We don't, they were so mad first day I came. I said, we no longer have suspension here, and we don't have expulsion here. There's no such thing here. Why? Because how did we evolve to be these people? We evolved to these people because we journeyed through trauma and realized that trauma sometimes looks like misbehavior. Right?
Yes, it does.
So we journeyed to a place where we now are more gifted at developing and supporting people's emotional intelligence over time. I will tell you, we're talking about our children. The space between my oldest, who's 41, and my youngest is about to turn 21. My 20-year-old just said to me the other day, he said, you know, Mom, we were talking and we were saying, you seem to be a much better mom than you were. I said, wait. First of all, you're telling me that you were talking about me. But secondly, you're telling me that you feel much safer than your siblings. And in talking to them, they confirmed that I'm a much safer mom now.
Wow.
Right? So I'm a much safer supervisor. I'm a much safer worker. Because I understand, especially within the work vein, what psychological unsafety feels like. It's an evolution. To be professionally unsafe, to be psychologically, to be physiologically unsafe. You feel like your life is here. You're about to lose your life, so that What do you do when your life is passing before your eyes? You either fight or you take flight.
When people start being intentional about living within their means, then you have excess. And then that excess becomes money that you can use to save, to invest, and to grow your wealth base.
Yes.
And listening to these ladies here, growing your wealth base is not necessarily so you can buy more stuff.
That's right.
Thank you. I love that.
I asked God years ago to bless me to be a blessing.
Yes.
Right? So what that means to me is that, I don't need to go out and buy a $200,000 car.
Right.
Yes.
That means that if I don't buy a $200,000 car, then there's something left over.
Yes.
And that something left over allows me to be a blessing to others.
Wow.
To be able to support, organizations that are doing good work in our community.
Yes.
For example, right? So you have people that are doing good work as relates to providing resources, opportunities, and information to the business community.
Yes.
You have organizations that are doing really good work as relates to financial literacy and teaching people how to better manage their resources.
Yeah. Yes.
I would definitely say our journeys have allowed us to process in a different way.
Yes.
It also makes us reflect back and say, I can understand, like you were just saying, I can understand now. And I can understand some of the terminology that my parents or my grandparents used to say now. And you're like, that makes so much sense.
Oh, yeah.
That makes so much sense now. And so I think about that, and I think about how we go through life saying I'm fine, and wearing this mask when we're not fine. And so for me, it's important to have my son, when he comes in the door and he says he's fine, and I know something, like we know our children, we know, like no, that's not fine.
Yes.
So I need you to tell me what fine sounds like, look like, and feel like. I need you to elaborate. I need the quantify. I need you to elaborate on this, because I don't, and it made me reflect as well, because he watched me and growing up continuously say I'm fine when I'm not.
Yes.
So this is something that he learned. This is a behavior that he learned.
Good point.
So it's my duty as his mom to break that cycle and help him unlearn that I'm fine. Because I never want him to think that he has to go through carrying something when we're together.
Yes.
Not carrying this burden alone.
Exactly.
And so, especially with him watching me being sick and him seeing me from being supermom, like in his eyes.
Yes.
Like, if you let him tell it, like I've always gone to all his football games. I'm always on the side. I'm the football mom. I'm picking up other students and things like. So for him now to be 25 and him watching me on the days when I'm super weak and I can't be like, I can't move around or do things on my own.
Yes.
And I'm saying, are you okay? He's like, I'm fine. And I'm realizing you're not fine because you're carrying the pain that you're carrying the pain that you see. You see me. So it's important that we teach others, and this is what we do when we talk about how we're helping others to heal. Because we're ensuring that we're healing ourselves on this journey.
Yes.
But we're bringing our family and our loved ones along.
Yes.
Yes.
And for so long,
true.
For so long, we were taught to worry about yourself, or you have to think about home. Home is everybody. Home is this, but sometimes you can't take care of everyone at home until you take care of this home.
Yes, ma'am.
This home has to be. This home has to understand what they're going through, what they're feeling, what they're experiencing, in order to be able to articulate and help someone else. So once I was able to put words to my emotions and my feelings and change my actions, then I was able to help.
Yes.
I was able to help my son and my sister and my mom and everyone else who was experiencing this illness with me. Because I'm not going through it alone. Sometimes it might feel that way.
Right.
But the reality is that I'm not going through it alone. And so when I'm in my dark space and everybody's staring at me and they like trying to shine lights on me, like, come out of here. come out of that dark space. I recognize, like, hey, this is us going through this. This is us going through it. So I'm not hiding I'm not hiding what I'm going through anymore. We're gonna talk about this.
Right.
Let's talk about this as a family. Let's go through this as a family, and then it doesn't feel as heavy.
Yes.
Trauma often feels so heavy because we're trying to deal with it by ourselves. We're carrying it alone.
Yes.
Instead of saying, "Hey, this is what I'm going. I'm in a bad space right now.
Yes.
I'm in a bad space right now, and this is why I'm in a bad space. This is what it feels like. These are the triggers. These are the warnings. These are the things. When you notice that I'm just sitting in the dark and I'm not turning the TV on, or I'm not reading, or I'm not writing, something is wrong.
Yes.
Even if I tell you it's not, something is wrong.
Yes.
And I might just need you to just sit there with me.
Yes.
Absolutely.
You know, I'm so sorry to interrupt you. I just want to say you brought up such a good point when you said we have to heal within first.
Yes.
When we heal within first, that radiates outward to our family, to our community. So that's why self-care is so important. Some people would say self-care is selfish. We have to get ourselves right first before we can be impactful and effective in our communities.
And self-care is not, ladies, a manicure and a pedicure.
Exactly.
Self-care, a bath, a massage. Yes. They're all great.
Yes, and let's incorporate them.
I know that you must. But self-care, right? That's not the point. That's not the self-care we're talking about. Right? We're talking about that deeper self-care.
Deep.
Because I cannot be the best mother that I can be. I can tell you now. I tell my children, since I've been working with the Strengthening Families program, working with other parents that are getting parents. I went through the program at first and taught all the modules. Wow. And it's a partnership we do through the University of Maryland.
Yes.
And so I got to lesson 10. I said, I was pretty bad parent. Because all the things, those strategies were not what our parents knew to do, but they knew the best that they could do is what they did.
Right.
So you pass that on.
Yes.
Now that my girls are older, 22 and 27, now the conversation I have with 22-year-old is, okay, I think one of the best things parents can give their children is a Christian therapist.
Amen.
Because sometimes you just don't have the words.
Yes.
And they're not listening to you. Right. But my child can call me and say, Mom, this event today was triggering for me. And let me tell you why. Because I need to tell someone.
Yes.
So I know when I was growing up, I didn't have that language. And I know she didn't get that language from me. So I know that had to be the works of the therapist and some insurance copay.
Yes.
So, but I'm so blessed, even though she is high maintenance and I love her. But I'm happy that she has the language. It's just getting her calmed down to find that language to communicate. And just think about how much gun violence we would reduce if people can tell you, this is triggering for me, or this is overstimulating for me. I need to go in the other room. I need to take a time out. I didn't know anything about sensory issues. And she's has a big sensory issue. I just knew she wanted to wear socks on inside out. No tags could touch her. I didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
But again, as you learn, you do better.
Yes.
So these are the things that we have to understand. And to your point about that healing.
Yes. Yeah.
I know we came to talk about triumph in the trenches. In my chapter in this book, I talk about doing that work as far as in the workplace. We can't go in the workplace or anywhere and talk about microaggressions and talk about racism or anti-blackness. Yes. When you subscribe to the same systems that you're trying to debunk, and just because the people have less pigmentation than you think they should change, but you have to realize you got to change first.
Exactly.
We were all brought up in a colonial educational system that was designed to do one thing, put us in a job for 30, 40 years until we, till our bodies break down so we can go back to the pharmaceutical company to get some chemicals to make us right. Wow. And then we all die. That's, Rockefeller, that's what he actually invented, the general education, I think, development system.
Wow.
Which
they didn't want independent thinkers.
They did not. That's what his quote was. Right? He wanted workers. I want workers, not thinkers.
Right. Wow.
And so one of the richest men in the world.
Still a predominant view among many.
Absolutely.
We are creating a workforce.
Right.
Right? And there's some with that viewpoint that not only do we want a workforce, we don't want a workforce that's too intelligent.
Yes.
Wanting somebody to come in, work in the factories, 40 hours a week for a certain amount of time.
Yes.
And as nature has it, your body will break down. So the next thing he invested in was the pharmaceutical giant.
Wow.
So that's why that money is generational wealth. And it was designed that way.
Wow.
So when we have those things happening to us, we have to speak out and say, yes, you have a mind and you have to think for yourself. And you do have to not assume that the child that comes to you, your son walks through the door and you see his countenance is down. Yeah. That you don't assume that he did something wrong in the classroom. You, like you said, you're a child. You ask, what happened? Give me the context.
And see, when I was a dean of students, this is what I used to get in trouble for
Me
all
too.
the time, right? Because I started teaching the kids to say, I'm going to disengage from this. And my thing was, I don't care if it's a teacher or if it's another student. If it's something that's making you feel uncomfortable and it's getting ready to cause you to have a reaction that you know is going to lead you to get into trouble, you say, I'm going to disengage from this and we can talk about this later.
Right.
And so the teachers ganged up and they got with the principal and they said that I was teaching the students to be disrespectful. And they were upset because I kept sending the kids back to the classroom. So my thing was, they can come to my office. I don't care. Come on.
Right.
This is my system. We got it's 3 minutes. It take no more. You back in the class in 5.
Yes.
You got 1 minute. I'm going to put this timer on. You're going to say everything you got to say. Then the next minute, I'm going to say everything I got to say.
Yes.
That last minute, we're going to talk about what happened, what we could do to do things differently, and then you're going back to class because your parent didn't send you to school to be sitting in my office.
Yes.
And so the teachers would get upset with that because when they walk by or they send somebody by, they would hear the student going off and just saying, and this happened and that. And my thing is, well, they were upset because you never listened to them.
Absolutely.
If we don't listen, then we can't learn what's upsetting them. And it comes down to something so minute as I was trying to get my point across.
Right.
And they wouldn't let me finish. And she kept cutting me off. And I felt dismissed.
And that's knowing a brain and when it develops, right? I had to teach my teachers, no matter how much you want their frontal lobe to be developed, it's not happening.
Yes.
Okay, it's not going to happen here in middle school.
That's that textbook teaching.
So stop asking them how many times do you have to tell them. You have to tell them every day because that's the nature of the brain at this age. And funny enough, I too was a dean. My teachers went so far to do a vote of no confidence in me because I did the same thing. Once I've coached the kid and I've changed the behavior, it's time for you to go back to class.
Yes.
This is a school. This is an institution of learning.
Right.
I'm not into putting kids out of school. Well, why can't you just hold them to the end of my class? Because he needs math.
Yes, he needs to learn.
He needs education.
And
this is not a holding tank. This is not a prison
pipeline.
Exactly.
But understand that pipeline was intentionally created by someone to create the workforce. Right? So I used to say that as a school leader, I used to say to my staff, do not send those children in here to punish them.
Yes.
I send them to my office to come have lunch with me, to come. You are so busy catching them being bad. Fruit goes bad, not children.
Yes.
So what you're going to do is catch them being productive, celebrate that, and then send them to my office with their friends so that we can celebrate the fact that they're productive, thereby creating more productive beings. We don't, they were so mad first day I came. I said, we no longer have suspension here, and we don't have expulsion here. There's no such thing here. Why? Because how did we evolve to be these people? We evolved to these people because we journeyed through trauma and realized that trauma sometimes looks like misbehavior.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, it does.
So we journeyed to a place where we now are more gifted at developing and supporting people's emotional intelligence over time. I will tell you, we're talking about our children. The space between my oldest, who's 41, and my youngest is about to turn 21.
Wow.
My 20-year-old just said to me the other day, he said, Mom, we were talking and we were saying, you seem to be a much better mom that you were. I said, wait. First of all, you're telling me that you were talking about me. But secondly, you're telling me that you feel much safer than your siblings.
Mm-hmm.
And in talking to them, they confirm that I'm a much safer mom now.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
So I'm a much safer supervisor. I'm a much safer worker.
Right.
Because I understand, especially within the work vein, what psychological unsafety feels like. To be
It's an evolution.
It's an evolution.
Yeah.
To be professionally unsafe, to be psychologically, to be physiologically unsafe. You feel like your life is here. You're about to lose your life. So that what do you do when your life is passing before your eyes? You either fight or you take flight.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
So it's for us and for me in Triumph in the Trenches too. I use the acronym FIGHT to help people to understand that fight does not have to be violent too.
Yes.
Right? A fight does not have to be a Pyrrhic victory where you come out torn and destroyed, but that the first F in fight for me is fear not.
Yes.
Right? Because the circumstance, regardless of whether you're in a school, you're in Chamber of Commerce, wherever you are, is when these microaggressions, when this unsafety comes at you, the first thing you want to do is fight. So I do talk to people about, number one, fear not, and be inspired and inspire change in other people. Are you part of it? Right?
Yes.
Get good company and grow. We're in really good company right now.
Yes.
H, hope in yourself and honor each other. And then there's that T, as in the trying, the moving forward. So what has to happen, and we all of us created a call to action in our essays.
Oh, I love that.
Yes.
So readers should know that in whatever essay you're reading, whether it be in any of the books that Ilona has helped us to publish, you will always find a call to action. Meaning, we're not, one of the things I say as clergy, and I say to other clergy I train, is don't sit there and open the wounds if you're not going to close it. Right? So when you're dealing with trauma, that's surgery.
Yes.
So you're not going to open people's wounds. You're not going to go, these are the issues that make you psychologically unsafe. And that's the problem I have with a lot of the writing that's out there today.
Yes.
We like to talk to people. We like to get dramatic. And this horrible thing happened to me. And this horrible thing happened to me. And, down with the man and power to the people. But we never give people a real call to action.
That's a now what portion.
The tools, the solutions.
So we work with a publisher who's very insistent
that
if you're going to write about this kind of thing, you've got to help people to walk out of trauma. It's got to be a so what, and this is what you can do about it. Not that this is what you do. And by the way, I think, again, in my first book that Ilona wasn't a part of, one of the things I say to people in my first book, where I tackle celebrating being healed from sexual abuse, which I was.
Okay. Amen.
I say to people, none of these stories are how to do it, how you can do it too. This is how it happened for others, because I firmly believe that God effectively creates healing specific to what you need.
Yes.
Each of us are made up in a different way. There's no system that's going to fix us all. How to be slim in 90 days. It's not going to work.
Yeah.
It's a tailor-made to you. So to your point, to our point, you have to understand yourself. You have to look inward. You have to when you read our book, you will say, oh, I recognize that thing.
Yes.
That thing happened to me. Oh, but I felt differently about that thing.
Yes.
Oh, I wonder what they did about it. Oh, this is what they did. And then now you get a chance to look at all the other 10, 20 authors, and you see you can patch together for yourself your own call to action, your own response to your own trauma, your own healing walk.
Now, see, what you just said is so important, and it reminds me, like Philip, so now a story is coming back to me, because you said something so pivotal in the fact that people, organizations, clergy, churches, whatever, corporate organizations are opening people up and not providing them tools. And I personally experienced this as a licensed professional trauma and Christian counselor. I was a part of this group, and they were literally opening people's psyche up, their emotions. I'm literally, as a therapist, watching one of the members about to have a full-blown panic attack. I speak up about mental health, and it was shunned.
That's it.
And it was shunned.
And then you write in your case notes that this person is not responsive.
Yeah, and then check this out. I wasn't even in the group as a professional therapist, but this is the need for Christian therapists, like you spoke about your daughter and how she benefited from it, right? Because we incorporate, like I incorporate the mental, physical, spiritual health piece. So not only in professional counseling with professional therapy, yes, we allow people to share their stories, share their traumas, share their feelings, their thoughts, but then we provide them with solutions. We help them heal so that they can move along the wellness path toward healing, restoration, and ultimately toward wholeness.
And you have to find that the therapy is great, but you have to put your children under the guidance of correct type of worship.
Yes.
And it is not, when I accepted Christ as my savior when I was 7.
Okay.
So there was a different type of preaching.
Yes.
At that time. I'm from Mississippi.
Okay, Mississippi.
It was a whole different kind of
Mississippi.
So I am the daughter of civil rights activists. So it was a different type of message. But it was what took place in those Sunday school classes.
Yes.
In those BTU training sessions.
Yes.
That's what really got the foundation there. Yes. It wasn't necessarily that meat of the sermon, but I was there for it all.
Yes.
You got up, you didn't do anything on Sunday, but it was just church.
Yes.
And if you didn't do church, you didn't do anything in the afternoon. I had to do that with my children. They have to know something.
Yes.
When I refer to Esther and her walking in facing up to the king and having that type of courage.
Yes.
Okay? Because sometimes you just got to say, what is going to happen, go happen. Yes. I know that this is the right thing to do.
Yes.
They have to be able to reach back and find that story. You understand? But if I've never put them in a situation where they can hear it, they have all type of mediums now. Okay, you got television, you got podcasts, but you got to make sure you have to vet what your children are listening to.
Yes,
you understand. My children were part of Awana as well,
okay.
So I kept them with some type of foundation. Yes. So it says, train up a child where they should go; they will always return, even if they walk away.
Yes, ma'am.
And that's just not for somebody under 18 or someone you gave birth to or that you mothered or fathered. It is for us. We're all children. Yes. And we all stray in some point in time.
Yes, we do.
At that time, people have to understand when they don't do that, they can't heal.
Yes.
You upset why these kids so disrespectful? Why are you? What was the foundation? You don't even know what you're putting a standard on them.
Yes.
As if these things have happened.
It's the assumption that you should know better. Or you supposed to know, but if someone wasn't taught something, you can't expect them to know it.
Yes.
You can't know what you haven't been taught. And so what I love about your book, Voices in Wellness, is because it's about healing the mind, it's about healing the body, it's about healing the spiritual. You. It's like it's all interconnected. You can't heal one without healing the other.
Exactly.
You can't heal one without healing the other. And I think that's where I know that's where people often fall short because they try to do one, but they go, I don't want to touch that. Or they take up the belief of someone else without going through their own journey of finding. And my faith may not be your faith. And that is okay.
Yes.
Whatever your spiritual well-being is, whatever, if you feel like it comes from the ground, the earth, if you feel like it comes from the sun, whatever it is, as long as you get in alignment of what makes you whole.
Yes.
I can't knock you from that, and I can't force you to believe what I believe.
Right.
But we can come to a mutual ground of respect.
Exactly.
And understand
and know that there's something greater
and know
than
that
us.
there's something greater. It's something greater than us. I say you can't praise God in the dark and then travel and scream with the devil in the light.
Yes.
You got to pick or choose. You got to do one or the other. Because don't expect that you're going to do all of this stuff that you going you rolling with the devil, and then when things get hard for you, all of a sudden you like, oh God, I need you to show. I want you to help me. I want you to help me.
Show up.
Just show up for me. Just until you go. Just until things get better, and then you like, oh, there is no God.
I'm good.
I don't believe it. I'm good now. It's like believing in that, and so that's what ties into what my book, Grieving the Hill. It's about understanding that sometimes you got to grieve things and let it go, so that you can. And we were just talking about this in the car on the drive up here, and I was saying the vision is not for you. The mission is.
Oh, yes.
The mission, the vision is not for you. The mission is. God has a purpose for you, or your higher being has a purpose for you. Almighty has a purpose for you, and you cannot always see it when it first started happening. But you get put on this journey, and something gets turned around, and you start to feel this calm, and things start falling in place in your life, and you don't know why. And you just like, I feel good, because you let some things go. You stop trying to hold on. You stop saying yes to everything. You holding on to everything for dear life. You shed some things, and you start putting some things down that didn't belong to you, or things you shouldn't be carrying, things you need to let go. Stop trying to forcefully open these doors that were meant to be closed. You start noticing the right doors start opening. The right yes start coming along. The right yes start coming along. The right people. You start to get in the company of the right people, and the right decisions start happening in your life, and you start to feel better. Your shoulders get put. Your head is up high. You start walking with a different confidence. But that's because you start being okay and being encouraged and being acceptive to the mission. Because you understand that the vision wasn't always meant for you to see right away.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And I just I think we sort of slid into the conversation about therapy. And
I love it.
Listen, sort of starting
nice natural conversation.
But you know what? I love it. What I love about us is that we kind of tag team off each other.
Yes, I love that.
And so I listened to you about the sort of being pressed down and the weight. I said right here in my notes, where I say to people, I was once about 350 pounds.
Wow.
And what it represented was the weight I carried around.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So I'm coming from having been a 138-pound dancer and performing artist. Right?
Wow.
And I moved to this lovely country. It's lovely. It's lovely.
Regardless of what you may hear.
And so I moved to this lovely country. And one of the things I learned, I went to art school. One of the things I learned was I didn't like a lot of the food that was here. But the other thing I learned was that food that contained sugar felt very familiar. So I ate a lot of that. But not just that, I mindlessly began to eat and internalize, and really internalize this pressure that was around me. And as I rose in career and in life, I became bigger and bigger and bigger, because it wasn't really about eating. Being obese isn't so much about eating. It's about sort of what's in here. Now I was a Christian. I accepted the Lord. As clergy, sanctimoniously. I was fasting and praying, and still 350 pounds. But fasting and praying and waiting for God to just zap. Slap me on my forehead. I have been slapped on the forehead in churches. Slapped, I would fall down and I would get up, healed and slim. Like that, there's this lady online that slaps her belly and goes, "Belly fat, go." I really
work that way.
It doesn't. I thought I was gonna be that, and God was gonna zap me. But there's something that He taught me that I now teach people. In fact, I'm actively writing on it, and it's sort of at the background of almost everything I write. And that is the concept of the mind Sabbath.
The mind Sabbath.
My next book is actually called Sabbath of the Mind.
Okay.
And in essence, I'm talking to people about the fact that we've been taught erroneously by colonialists, by people living theophobia. We've been taught that a Sabbath is a day.
Oh.
But a Sabbath is not so much about a day as a mindset. That's the reason the people of Israel were disobedient. God said, I will not bring you into my rest. I was angry with you and I will not bring you into my rest. Because rest is really about a state of mind with God that then opens you up to possibilities from a professional standpoint as well as a spiritual. It looks at all aspects, mind, body, spirit, soul, and pockets. Because we forget that pockets are part of wellness. Which is what's caused our people to be poor, because colonialism is a capitalist system. So in essence, they have to keep the workforce poor. They have to keep the workforce mentally down and poor. When you become free is when you begin to live a Sabbath of your mind. A freedom in the place with Christ, in yours. And by the way, some people are going to beat me up about this, the Christians and the super sanctimonious folks, but there are people who are on a walk and a journey to holiness who are not yet Christians. He said, if you seek me, you will find me. Who are we to tell people how to seek? So if I meet you and you're seeking, but you're an atheist, you still all right with me. If you're seeking and you're Buddhist, maybe you all right with me. Please buy and read my book. Right? What it is about is your journey, your mind journey. It starts inwardly and then you have to stop. So Psalm 116 talks about return to your rest, my soul. Right? And so there's a space to return to your rest. We're talking about being psychologically safe, professionally and physiologically safe, but that safety starts at a space of rest. You have to return to your inward self. You have to walk back into your inward self. Ask the hard questions. Why is this happening at work? Why is this happening in my life? Why is this happening right now? And you begin to shed the weight. So I have to tell you all, I got an award, and I sort of got to a point where I was racking them up. They kind of sit in a dusty corner of my office, and it's very nice. Listen, thank you for your award. But I received one, and they took a picture of me, and they posted one. I think it was in the Queen's Courier. And I looked at myself in this picture, and I did not recognize myself. And so there was this picture of me holding the award, and I realized that to everyone else, I looked so happy in my red suit. And I was not. And that's something now that I include in every single keynote that I give, in every single speech. I say to people, you can be so in your profession and so successful and making $250,000 a year, which has been my salary in my life. You can make $250,000 a year, do your nails every Saturday, I don't know, self-care, buy the massage and the stuff, but you're really not self-caring. And so I think that's, you'll find from all of us, we want you to know that your biggest flex is self-care. Your biggest self is looking inward, is stopping and going, why am I unhappy at work? It's not that lousy boss. It's not that that all that work. I remember, I looked at that picture and I was sitting at my desk, because you know, in government, we laid off 65% of the workforce and then we were trying to do 100% of the work. So I'm at my desk. I think it was a Valentine's Day. My husband's here, and for him, Valentine's Day is a national holiday. And he had bought his flowers and his roses, and he had decided to set up the whatever for us to go out. And guys, it was 10 p.m. and I was still in the office.
Oh no.
And we'd arranged that he would meet me at the train station at 7:30 to go on our date. And I was at the office at 10 because I had to make it, and because I was being mobbed by those around me, and it was misogyny, and I had to do whatever it took to stay at the top. And I'm almost 400 pounds sitting at my desk, full of the weight and pressure, supposed to know how to pray and get a release and get a prayer through. But what was the issue? I hadn't looked inside of myself, and I hadn't entered mental rest. So I just want us, before we walk away from here, that we help people to understand that being in God, being in Christ, is not being in a religion. It is a state of mind. It is not wearing my fancy dress every Sunday and making sure tomorrow is the day that all Christendom, where's there in Jamaica, we say you're pretty done done. And everybody put on their pretty done done and go, but nothing has shifted on your inside. It is a superstitious thing that you do. You go with your superstition, and you go and you sing praises and you fan and you feel very holy, and you go home and you eat your ham and you feel good. You did that thing once a year.
Yeah.
But God is asking for more. There's a new revival. It's not coming, it's here.
Yes.
We have now been faced with what we really are.
Yes.
Right. And you're right. And that's the thing, is that it is that journey, it is that mindset, is that taking that time.
Yes.
Because people will constantly knock on, you want to do this, no. I feel like Philip, like I worked hard to get my little house.
Okay.
And I want to be in the house.
Yeah, and it's your house. It's not your little house. It's your house.
Well, you know what? I was only going to buy what I was going to clean.
I know that's right.
Okay, so I don't have a problem saying
little house. Okay.
All right.
I could pay somebody to clean.
All right.
Yeah.
I'm not paying nobody anything. And being a good steward of your money is something we're talking about.
Yes.
But so my thing is that and go, and I am a member of a church where there's always something going on, and God bless.
Yes.
But I don't always have to be in the go.
Yes.
Okay? Because
Good point.
sometimes my testimony and my work is not in that organization.
Yes.
Okay? He does say come together and commune, but I could call you on the phone and commune, and that could be it for the day.
Exactly.
You know,
you must have been in the car with us.
I literally was just talking about
but
that.
the thing is that I feel that because in our communities as people of color,
Yes.
it has been so entrenched in us that if you don't go here, and if you don't wear a dress, and if you don't do this, and if you don't take communion, and if you don't, I feel like the Spirit has put things in place to debunk this stuff.
That's
And
what's
people
happening.
are still trying to do the same stuff. If we went all through COVID
Yes.
and were at the house and we didn't implode and go to hell all of a sudden,
Right.
we can still do the same thing. And the money you done put in the building fund, you could open up 19 businesses and get 29,000 people off the street and send 99 kids to school.
So
Yes.
the church is not the building.
Right. So you know what you all are talking about?
That
You
part.
all are talking about the difference between religion and spirituality. We're talking spirituality is your personal relationship with God.
Yes.
He's coming back for my spirit.
Yes.
This is going away. If I don't work on that,
Yes.
he has nothing to come back for.
Mhm.
And that's why I say, are you working to live or are you working to die?
That's it.
That part.
Are you working to live or are you
Ooh.
working to die? Because if you're working to die, you just going and you in these cycles
Yes.
and you just letting the machine work, your machine work. But when you're working to live, you are making sure you're getting your mental together, you're getting your spirituality together, you are getting you are okay with your fortitude, you're okay with sitting at home and not doing.
Yes.
You no longer and I used to be a part, I used to be a member of the Got to Be Busy
Yes.
club.
Oh yeah.
I'm no longer a member.
Yes.
of the Got to
No
Be-
longer a
I'm
member.
very intentional about how I
Yes.
spend my
Right.
time.
Yes,
But I'm
ma'am.
also intentional about
Say
how
that
I spend
again.
my money.
Intentional.
Yes.
And so,
your
yes.
and so
money.
for
Being
me,
a good
right.
steward of your money.
Right. And so
Absolutely.
that's
Yes.
why for me, choose life means something completely different. When I say choose life, I'm talking about limiting the access you give others to
Yes.
their mental and emotional space.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm talking about being
And energy.
intentional,
Yes.
being intentional how you spending your time
Mhm.
and who you're spending
Your time with.
with.
Yes.
I'm talking
Yes.
about being okay with being uncomfortable in that fear, because
Yes.
through that fear there's growth.
Yes.
You gotta learn
That's
from
it.
that lesson.
Yes.
You gotta fight through that fear so that you can come out on the other side.
I
But then
love
there's
that.
also that fortitude of saying that I'm okay with changing.
Yes.
Change is
Absolutely.
good.
Yes.
Change is good.
And then set those high expectations and require people to meet them. Stop moving the toilet pole. Stop saying
Yes.
I'm gonna dumb myself down.
Yes.
I'm gonna make my expectations less.
Absolutely.
I'm
Yes.
gonna lower my standards and my boundaries because you're uncomfortable.
Yes.
Absolutely not.
No.
You gotta be comfortable with being uncomfortable the same way I have to be comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Yes.
So my
Absolutely.
expectations, I'm gonna keep my expectations expectations up here, and then I'm going to require people to meet me up here.
Yes.
Set those expectations, because if you're not willing to do the work to meet me here, I'm not willing to backtrack and do the work.
Exactly.
Right.
This is a team effort.
Yes.
Now, you guys talked about finances. I love it. And Philip, I want to hear more from you on finances. I have something that I want to ask you. So, what are some practical financial health strategies or resources you recommend for faith-driven individuals who are trying to walk in purpose without falling into financial bondage?
Talk about it.
Well, for me, I think one of the big things is we have to get accustomed to and be intentional about living not at our means but beneath our means.
There you go.
Yes.
So I know when I was doing residential mortgage lending, I remember this young lady who came in for a mortgage and she didn't qualify.
Yeah.
And she didn't qualify because she had an $800 car payment.
Mm-hmm.
She should have had a $350 car payment.
Yes.
I got her to go back
Okay.
and trade that car in
Thank
and
God.
get a cheaper car.
Yes.
And then she qualified for a mortgage.
Okay.
Right? So we get really sometimes really focused on the wrong stuff.
Yes.
Yes.
And if we go in
Mhm.
for a mortgage and they say, you qualify for, an $800,000 loan, right?
Right.
That doesn't mean you have to get an $800,000.
Yes.
If you qualify for an $800,000 loan, guess what? You also qualify for a $400,000
Hello.
loan.
Right.
Right. So when people start being intentional about living within their means,
Yes.
then you have excess. And then
Yes.
that excess becomes money that you can use to save, to invest,
There you go.
and to grow your wealth base.
Yes.
And listening to these ladies here, growing your wealth base is not necessarily so you can buy more stuff.
That's right.
Thank
Right.
you. I love that.
I asked God years ago to bless me to be a blessing.
Yes.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So what that means to me is that I don't need to go out and buy a $200,000 car.
Right.
Yes.
That means
Yes.
that if I don't buy a $200,000 car, then there's something left over.
Yes.
And that something left over allows me to be a blessing to others.
Wow.
To be able to support, organizations that are doing good work in our community.
Yes.
For example, right? So you have people that are doing good work as relates to providing resources, opportunities, and information to the business community.
Yes.
You have organizations that are doing really good work as relates to financial literacy and teaching people how to better manage their resources.